Good, beautiful morning, everybody. Let me turn this heat down a little bit so it don't sound like a wind tunnel back there. What a gorgeous Monday morning it is. I know a lot of you don't like the winter or whatever, but it's just, it's my mindset, man. It's got to be a good day. Snow all over me already. I hope you ladies and gentlemen are starting your Monday morning off delicious. Having a beautiful start to your Monday morning. I got to go get blood work done, so I'm heading to go get labs right now. Heading to the lab. And I got to stop in Freeland, and then I'm heading out to Elma by myself to further along chuck away at the Elma Deep Clean. Let's talk a little bit about responsibility and accountability. All right. For a long time in my life, I never got the results I wanted because of those two things. I wouldn't hold myself accountable, and I wouldn't change my behavior, and I wouldn't take on responsibility. I wanted to be irresponsible with zero accountability. And those things in our life will ruin opportunities. They will create the circle we have around us with those same types of people around us. So basically, by changing accountability and being responsible in life, my entire life changed. Through other things like discipline and consistency, and you can't just be accountable today and not be accountable tomorrow. You can't just be responsible today and not be responsible tomorrow. You're not going to get the greatest outcomes that way. Now, I'm not telling you not to have your weekend or anything of that nature, but you have to take accountability, and you got to be responsible 365 days a year. We all have responsibilities, right? I would hope so. Right? If not, your outlook probably isn't that great in life if you have zero responsibilities. It's pretty difficult to make it in the United States with zero responsibilities. Or you're not going to have that gratifying of a life. Let's put it that way. So, what's some principles we can do to begin to take accountability? Okay, this is what I did. I'll just give my example, and then you can formulate it however you want to, and this might not be suitable with you or line up with your life, and that's okay. I'm just going to share what I did. The first way I began to start taking accountability for my life was by looking in the mirror and asking myself a simple question. Are you happy with your outcome in life right now? And the answer to that was absolutely not. I was in a miserable place. I was homeless. I was vehicleless. I was jobless. I was not a dollar in my bank account list. I was a whole lot of lisses. And I had to be real honest with myself, which is one of the most difficult things for people to do. I don't know why. It's like the most important person to be honest with is yourself, because if you can't be honest with yourself, you are not going to be honest with other people. And honesty gets you a long ways in life. So I had to look at myself in the mirror and be honest with myself. And then I had to ask myself, why do you have the current circumstances and situations you do have in your life, Justin? And then I had to say, well, because of my irresponsible behavior and my lack of ability to take accountability for anything. I took accountability for nothing. I wouldn't even own up to the own circumstances and situations I had in my life. And until I started owning up, so I was homeless, vehicleless, I was a loser. Okay, let's just sum it up like that. I was a loser. That's the easiest way to define what I was. I had to look at myself in the mirror and tell myself, Justin, the results you have today is because of your loser mindset and your loser ability to take accountability and responsibility for anything in life. For anything in life. That's why you're at where you're at today. And that isn't to say go beat yourself up for 6 months to a year. I'm not telling you that. But you have to feel the pain of, for example, for me, of taking no responsibility and not holding myself accountable for anything. I had to own up for that. And that was emotional to me. And I cried and I felt like shit. And I felt like the loser that I actually was, which was good because that gave me the motivation to start climbing towards away from being a loser. That started giving me ideas of what can I seek to start changing some of the outcomes in my life. What things can I do on a daily basis differently? Little things, not huge things. Can I do to start getting different outcomes in life? What can I do? And at that point, there was endless options because I was a loser. There was endless options. I could have did anything. I could have walked to my mailbox. I was depressed at this time. I could have walked to my mailbox and back, and I did more than I did the day before. If that tells you anything of my circumstances and how much of a loser I was in life. So it may be difficult and it may be hard to look in the mirror and accept your outcomes in life, and reality is probably heavily predicated on our decisions, our lack of accountability, our lack of responsibility, and our lack of action. It's difficult to do that. It's going to break you down, but that's great. The military does that. They break you down to build you up. It's great though, because it then gives you room for growth. Holy cow. How did that person end up way over there? That don't even look right. How everybody's okay. Whew. Roads must be a little slick. But anyways, so until I was able to face and actually be honest with myself and tell myself who I have became, nothing changed. Once I owned up to who I was and who I manifested myself into, which was a loser. Until I did that, I think I don't know how to get better. I don't know what to do in my life to become a better person. And that was all the lack of accountability thing and the lack of responsibility thing, trying to keep me there where I was, when all I had to do was say, hey, look, dude, you're in this situation because of the choices you've made. You're getting these outcomes in life because you're putting very little into life. That's all I had to do. And then mysteriously, all these little opportunities started popping up. Oh, Justin, you could work on your mental health. You could work on your physical health. You could work on this. You could work on your relationships. You could work on your finances. You could work on all these little bubbles. I'm getting excited just talking about it. And then the excitement happened. And then I realized, oh, accountability and responsibility doesn't have to be a bad thing. You can get excited about it. And that's when things started changing in my life. Now, that may not be the circumstances from you. For you, I don't know your circumstances. But accountability and responsibility, a lot of people, me included, we ran from. We didn't want to do, I don't want to do what I know I have to do, but I got a choice if I don't do it, and nobody's going to hold me accountable, blah, 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 all the stories, right? We tell ourselves. For example, a lot of people start their Monday morning off like, another mundane week. That mindset will keep us depressed and miserable, not see the opportunity in the greatness in what we are actually doing. So accountability and responsibility, without owning up to accountability or responsibility in our life, we cannot persevere. We cannot push forward and grow or enjoy life if we negate responsibility and accountability. Those are the two key factors in honesty. You got to be honest with yourself. If you're not 100% honest with yourself, you're not 100% honest with anybody else. You have to be your best friend. You have to learn to love yourself And if you can't, you're only giving people a fraction of what you could give them. It's actually pretty selfish. I know you're like, what do you mean it's selfish? Well, if you're not willing to be honest to yourself and make yourself the best version of yourself, then what you're giving other people is only a fraction of what you could be giving other people. Does that make sense? So for years, people like, Justin, you're a good person. You got so much potential. When I was in my 20s, destroying my life, right? But the truth is at that moment, okay, I'm glad they could see something in me that I couldn't see. But the truth is at that moment, I was not providing much value into other people's lives. And when I'm talking about that, I'm not talking about dollars. I'm not talking about dollars whatsoever. There's a lot more valuable things out there than just money. But I people say, oh, you got a good personality, you got that, you got so much, you got a good work ethic, you got this, you got that. You got so much potential. But maybe they've seen something I couldn't see, but at that moment, no, I didn't. I was only giving people a millimeter of a fraction of what the individual I could be giving to them. Could have been kinder. I could have been nicer. I could have been an example to more people, maybe my nephew, maybe my nieces, or whatever, so they could have looked up to that opposed to seeing their uncle getting in trouble, battling with addictions, battling with other things. So I wasn't giving them the best version of myself, and I'm sure that impacted them somewhere in life. So the truth is, I think it's pretty selfish not to give our best to the people around us. That's just my only personal belief. I'm not saying that's facts, okay? It's just my own personal opinion. And through accountability and responsibility, when I say accountability, I'm not saying like own up to something you did to this individual, and you should anyways, but I'm saying take accountability to yourself. Be accountable to it. If you tell yourself you're going to do something, do it. Or you're going to continue to be insecure. You're going to continue to think low of yourself. You're going to have low self-worth. All that stuff impacts. All that stuff impacts the individual we become. So the best thing that ever happened in my life was simply taking accountability, being responsible, and being honest with myself. Through being honest with myself, I became okay, and I became to love who I became, so I could be better to other people in society. That's where it all starts from, is the accountability. You have to look at your life, and the best people in the world analyze themselves and their daily rituals and routines on a weekly basis. They analyze it. They self-reflect. What could I have done better? Now, I'm not telling you like never to get to a point where you don't feel like you're doing great and you're successful. None of that, right? But I'm saying accountability and responsibility and honesty is the key to all the doors and dreams you've ever wished. It is the key element to all the dreams and visions you've ever had. It all starts there. It all starts with looking in the mirror. And if you can't look in the mirror and take accountability for where you're at right now and who you are at right now, and you might be in a great place, but there might be something weighing on you where you need some work on, and you've just been putting it off on the back burner, right? We've all did that. I got some things right now that I need to work on that I haven't worked on. I'm not sitting here preaching and acting as if I'm perfect. I'm far from it. I have a lot of work in a lot of different areas, relationships included, that I could improve on, and I know I could improve on. And I need work there, right? So I'm not over here saying I have all the answers, but what I am saying is my life changed drastically since taking accountability and being honest to myself. You can bullshit anybody else and persuade them to believe in your bullshit, but you can't bullshit yourself. You know, your conscience tells you deep down inside when you're bullshitting yourself. So I strongly encourage you today to look at today as an opportunity. Today, maybe that opportunity may be just to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself without reassurance from anybody else. You don't need anybody's reassurance. You don't need anybody to say, hey, yeah, that's a good idea to do for yourself. All you need is your own, okay? And just go right ahead and take accountability for who you are, where you are, in all aspects of your life. And then what that will do for you is that will create a roadmap of what you get to work on, and that'll get you excited about Mondays again. I love you all. Have a blessed day.